last year was 66%.
Right.
So that's interesting. India was in the top 5 countries hit by ransomware out of 31 countries surveyed. The most startling statistic I feel is when organizations get hit by ransomware, in India 80% of the organizations had their data encrypted. That's the highest in the world. So that's interesting, but it's not a big deal. But the big deal was 78% of organizations that had their data encrypted chose to pay the ransom to retrieve their data.
Right.
Whereas globally that was only 44%.
Right.
So most countries, most organizations around the world will actually prefer to get their data back from backups. And so you go, well, why would India be at 78%? Why would they readily?
Why? Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's surprising.
Something that even I want to understand. Why is that? What do you think is that?
Well, I think there's 2 angles on this. Your first response might be, well, they were not prepared, which means they didn't have adequate business continuity plans, they didn't do their backups properly, or they weren't current, or they hadn't tested their backup and restore process. Because if they had, why wouldn't they just do that?
Absolutely.
Right? That's number one.
Absolutely.
So that's that. Your first thought is it's likely they were less prepared, right? Which is a lesson and a call to action for India organizations. They need to be more prepared, they need to be more proactive, and they need to be more vigilant. We can come back to that. The other side of the coin, though, is ransomware tactics have changed. They keep evolving. And one of the tactics we've noticed is there was a slowdown in payments of ransom. And many organizations reached out to third parties to help with ransomware negotiations, maybe getting the amount down, negotiating, playing the game. And so the ransomware attackers have now started to threaten, extort the organizations. So they may threaten to leak. And even in some of the banners, when you get a ransomware note saying your data's been encrypted and they add and leaked. So suddenly you have a worry that you're getting exposed, your brand is getting exposed, or sensitive data that you may have of your organizations is out there. And so the sooner you can pacify the attackers to say, we'll pay you, but assure us that give us our data and make sure you're not putting it on the dark web or selling it or using it for nefarious purposes. So I think there's another angle there which says there could be 2 things going on because they're both probable. They're less prepared and there's more extortion. And so now you have to deal with that as well.
Right. So he already has my questions, right? So should I repeat them? I have the questions.
What was your next question?
So my next question would be, what are the key questions that organizations must ask about ransomware? What do you think are the top questions that these organizations should be asking?
Yeah. So we're talking with our team yesterday, and one of our top SEs who speaks to customers all the time, he asked a simple question: what will happen if you get attacked tomorrow morning at 2 a.m.
Absolutely.
So it's a weekend, it's a typical time for attacks. And what will you do? And if the customer can answer to say, well, we've done tabletop exercises, we've got a business continuity plan, we all know our roles and responsibilities, we have cyber insurance, whether that's relevant or not we can get to. So they have, it's are you prepared? And how recently have you revisited your cybersecurity response plan?
Most important.
Yeah, that's the most important question.
So those are the key questions.
The second question, or the second statement is more around, have you assessed your readiness? And usually that would be a third-party provider to tell you whether you've got potential misconfigurations, gaps in your policy, all those typical questions. And so it's really have a plan, have a procedure. I think it's as simple as that.
That's I think the best way to put it. Right, okay, so now how can organizations ensure that they have the best effective incident management plan for ransomware incidents? What they can do, really? How can they ensure that they have the best plan? What are the steps that they must take?
Yep. So our view is assume you're going to be attacked. So don't assume you're going to be okay. And we can cover the psychology of will we be attacked or won't we be attacked, and this idea of how do the business leaders think about it, and how do the operational IT practitioners think about it. But you need a business continuity plan
Absolutely.
in place.
Right.
You need the right people, process, and technologies. A lot of organizations think this is a technology problem, and so they will buy more and more technology, and they keep hearing from the industry. I mean, there are 3,500 security vendors out there, and they all sort of say the same thing, and they all pretend that their technology is the silver bullet to solve the problem.
Again, is this something that you're noticing only in India, or is it a global problem, a global issue?
No, I think it's a global phenomenon, and you could call it lack of awareness, you could call it ignorance, but I think it's probably best described respectfully as contextual ignorance. And the bottom line is you cannot be 100% protected.
Absolutely.
And so you have to assume that there are holes that appear every day that can be compromised. And it usually starts with human error. So humans get scammed, spammed, and phished.
So you feel that human error is the number one reason that this is happening?
Yeah, I think human ignorance and human error are the top two issues that we have to deal with. We have an awareness reality, and I think awareness is improved in the boardroom, in the executive management. Everyone knows cybersecurity is important. But the way I'd explain it is, if you think of a business, any business, let's take the automotive industry, you build an automotive business model that delivers an automotive business outcome. You then create IT to support that automotive business, and then you put cybersecurity on top of it. The world has changed in that the consumer needs to trust an organization regardless of what industry they're in. And especially as we move to digital, online, and how we do business, trust has to start with embedding security into everything you do, or embedding trust in everything you do. So you've got to turn the model on its head. Don't start with the business, then apply IT, then apply security. Whatever you're doing with the business model, apply cybersecurity as if it's built in. And many organizations, you'll go to their website and they'll have a trust initiative around why should consumers or other people who buy our service trust us. So that becomes very